You know, it's crazy how so many people today are walking around with heavy hearts, but smiling faces. You scroll through social media and it looks like everyone's living their best life, but deep down, so many of us are fighting battles no one sees. And I've been there too. That quiet kind of pain where everything looks fine on the outside, but inside, it feels like the light's gone out. Depression can make you feel like you're trapped inside your own mind. Like no matter how far you run, the sadness always catches up. But here's the thing I learned, and it didn't come from a book or a podcast. It came from experience. Getting closer to God, whatever you call that higher power, that divine source, that energy that's bigger than you, it can destroy depression from the inside out. Not in a magical snap-your-fingers way, but in a way that rebuilds your spirit piece by piece until the darkness just doesn't have the same power anymore. See, depression feeds on disconnection. It thrives when we're cut off from meaning, from purpose, from love, from something greater. And what does getting closer to God do? It reconnects you. It fills that emptiness that no person, no achievement, no amount of scrolling can fill. It's like plugging your soul back into its power source. I remember a time in my life when I felt completely lost. I was waking up every day just going through the motions, scrolling, eating, working, sleeping, but feeling absolutely nothing. I'd tell people I was fine, but inside I felt numb. And one day, out of frustration, I literally said out loud, "God, if you're real, show me something. I'm tired." And that moment changed everything. Not because the clouds parted and angels started singing, but because for the first time, I opened the door. I invited something higher in. When you start to seek God, in silence, in prayer, in nature, in stillness, it's like your soul remembers where it came from. You start realizing you were never alone. You were just disconnected. And that realization alone starts to destroy the grip of depression. See, depression tells you you're not enough. You're alone. You're hopeless. But when you start building a relationship with the divine, you begin to see the truth. You were never meant to carry the world on your shoulders. You were never meant to control everything. You were meant to surrender, to trust, to breathe again. And I get it. When people hear trust God or let go, they roll their eyes because it sounds cliche. But let me explain it in a real way. Imagine you've been trying to swim upstream your whole life, fighting the current, exhausting yourself trying to fix everything, prove everything, control every little thing. And then one day you stop fighting. You float. You let the river carry you. That's what surrender feels like. And when you surrender to God, depression starts losing its hold because you're no longer fighting the pain alone. God doesn't remove the storms. He teaches you how to find peace in the middle of them. He reminds you that you're not the storm, you're the sky. The clouds may come and go, but the sky stays. And that shift in awareness is what starts breaking depression's illusion. Because depression is loud. It screams that you're worthless, hopeless, stuck. But God whispers the opposite. And when you spend time in stillness, those whispers get louder. You start feeling that small inner voice saying, "You're loved. You're seen. You're here for a reason." And that's when light starts to seep through the cracks. There's a story I once heard that stuck with me. A man was walking through a dark tunnel with a small candle. He couldn't see the end and he was scared. But he kept walking step by step, with that little flame lighting his way. At one point he stumbled, fell, and the candle went out. He thought it was over. But then, out of nowhere, he noticed the faintest glow up ahead, daylight. The darkness had fooled him into thinking he was lost, but he was closer to the exit than he realized. That's how it is when you walk with God. Even when it feels like your light has gone out, His light is still guiding you. And here's the truth. Getting closer to God doesn't mean you'll never feel sad again. It means sadness won't own you anymore. It means when darkness knocks, you'll have light inside that answers back. It means instead of drowning in your thoughts, you'll start to rise above them. You'll begin to see your pain not as punishment, but as part of your growth. There was a period when I started waking up early, not to scroll, not to stress, but just to sit quietly. No phone, no music, just silence. I'd say, God, I don't know what you're doing, but I trust you. Some mornings I'd cry. Some mornings I'd feel nothing. But slowly, something shifted. I started feeling peace where anxiety used to live. I started noticing small moments of beauty again, sunlight through the blinds, laughter, music. I realized God doesn't shout through miracles. Sometimes He whispers through ordinary moments, reminding you that you're still alive, still worthy, still loved. And when you get closer to God, you start to feel a sense of purpose again. Depression makes you forget why you're here, but God reminds you that your life isn't random. You were created for something, even if you can't see it yet. Maybe your pain is meant to help someone else heal. Maybe your story will become someone else's survival guide. When you realize that, your suffering turns into strength. Let me tell you something powerful. You don't need to have it all together to get closer to God. You don't have to be perfect, pure, or positive all the time. God meets you in your mess. He meets you in the nights you cry and the days you can't get out of bed. The moment you whisper help, you've already started healing. Depression says you're alone. God says, I'm here. Depression says give up. God says, keep going. And when you start believing that, not just in your head but in your soul, something shifts. You stop defining yourself by your pain. You stop letting your thoughts control your peace. You start realizing that maybe the battle was never against the darkness outside, but the disconnection within. I know this might sound simple, but try this tonight. Before you go to bed, just take a deep breath and say, God, I don't know how to fix everything, but I'm open. Show me peace. Don't force it. Don't expect fireworks. Just open that door and keep opening it every day. Eventually, light will walk through. The thing about divine connection is that it's not about religion. It's about relationship. It's about feeling that you're not some lost soul drifting through chaos, but a piece of something infinite. When you remember that, depression loses its voice because you're no longer listening to lies. You're tuned into truth. So many of us think happiness comes from achieving something: money, love, success. But real joy, the kind that lasts, comes from alignment. When your soul is aligned with God, peace becomes your natural state. You stop chasing it and start living it. And yeah, life will still have hard days. You'll still feel pain, but you'll stop being afraid of it. Because you'll know, even in your lowest moment, you're being held. You'll know that every storm ends, every night turns to morning, and every breakdown can become a breakthrough if you invite God into it. I've seen people come back from the darkest places, addiction, heartbreak, loss, and find light again. Not because everything suddenly got easy, but because they stopped fighting alone. They started walking with faith instead of fear. If you're listening to this right now, maybe this is your sign. Maybe this is your reminder that it's time to come home to yourself. To stop running from the pain and start running toward the presence that created you. God hasn't forgotten you. He's been waiting, not in the clouds, not in some faraway place, but right inside your heart. So talk to Him. Meditate, pray, sit in silence, take a walk outside, whatever helps you feel connected. Because the moment you do, that heaviness begins to lift. The fog begins to clear. And you realize the thing that depression tried to convince you was gone, hope, was always there, waiting to be seen again. And I'm not saying this as someone who's got it all figured out. I'm saying this as someone who's felt that darkness, who's cried those late-night tears, who's asked, what's the point, and somehow found light again. And I'm telling you, it's real. Healing is real. Peace is real. God is real. So today, take one small step closer. Maybe that means sitting quietly for 5 minutes and just breathing. Maybe it means writing down everything you're grateful for, even if it's just, I'm still here. Because the more you focus on gratitude, the more your heart opens. And where gratitude lives, depression can't stay for long. When you walk with God, you don't walk in fear. You walk in faith. You start to trust the process, even when it doesn't make sense. You start realizing that every setback was actually a setup for growth. And you start feeling something you might not have felt in a long time: joy. Joy that isn't dependent on circumstances. Joy that exists just because you exist. And when you reach that place, that's when you'll look back and realize God didn't just destroy your depression, He rebuilt your soul. So, if you've been searching for peace, for meaning, for something more, it's already waiting for you. All you have to do is open up, take that step and say, God, I'm ready. Because the moment you do, you'll start to see that light isn't something you have to chase. It's something that's been inside you all along. And that's the truth. Getting closer to God doesn't just destroy depression. It awakens life again.